Welcome to Christmas Stories for Sleep, where we share heartwarming tales to help you drift off into peaceful dreams. Tonight's story is a Christmas Carol comeback, a tale of second chances, small-town magic, and finding love where you least expect it. So settle in, get comfortable, and let the gentle snow of Pine Haven carry you into a world of Christmas wonder. The first snowflake hit Maya Westwood's windshield just as she passed the weathered wooden sign reading, "Welcome to Pine Haven. Population 3,247. Home of the 1,987 state champion Eagles." She turned off the radio with more force than necessary, cutting off the tail end of her own voice, crooning Christmas Magic Tonight, the song that had made her famous 5 years ago and infamous ever since. Pine Haven looked exactly as she remembered it, and absolutely nothing like she wanted it to. Main Street stretched before her like a Norman Rockwell painting come to life, complete with twinkling lights strung between old-fashioned lampposts, shop windows dressed in red and green, and what appeared to be the entire population of the town bustling about with packages and purpose. The hardware store still had that crooked awning. Miller's Diner still boasted the world's best apple pie on a hand-painted sign, and the old movie theater was advertising "It's a Wonderful Life" on its vintage marquee. Maya pulled her black Mercedes into a parking space in front of the Pine Haven Community Center, her designer heels clicking against the pavement as she stepped out into the crisp December air. The scent of pine trees and wood smoke immediately assaulted her senses, dragging up memories she'd spent 5 years trying to forget. She wrapped her expensive coat tighter around herself, a shield against both the cold and the curious stares already coming her way. "Maya Westwood? Is that really you?" She turned to find Mrs. Henderson from the bakery approaching with a mixture of surprise and something that might have been disappointment. The older woman's gray hair was dusted with flour, and she carried a box that smelled like cinnamon and sugar. "Hello, Mrs. Henderson." Maya forced a smile that felt rusty from disuse. "How are you?" "Well, I'm just fine, dear, though I have to say, we were all surprised to hear you were coming back to help with the Christmas pageant, especially after." She trailed off, her cheeks pink with more than just the cold. After the scandal, after the leaked video of Maya calling Christmas a commercial cash grab for brain-dead consumers, after her very public meltdown when a reporter had asked about her hometown's quaint Christmas traditions, after her career had imploded faster than a house of cards in a tornado. "Yes, well, I'm looking forward to giving back to the community," Maya said, the words tasting like sawdust. Mrs. Henderson's expression softened slightly. "That's nice, dear. I suppose everyone deserves a second chance, especially at Christmas." She gestured toward the community center. "Noah's inside setting up for rehearsal. He's been working so hard to keep the pageant going since his father retired." Noah. Maya's stomach did an uncomfortable flip. Noah Patton, who had been 3 years ahead of her in school, who had always been serious and studious, who probably still believed in Santa Claus and the power of positive thinking, the last person in the world who would understand why she'd left Pine Haven in the first place. "I should go find him," Maya said, hefting her purse higher on her shoulder. "Nice to see you, Mrs. Henderson." "You too, dear." "And Maya?" The older woman's voice stopped her at the door. "Whatever happened in the past, you're home now. That's what matters. Home." Maya pushed through the heavy wooden doors of the community center, wondering when the word had started feeling more like a prison sentence than a comfort. The main hall was exactly as she remembered it. Hardwood floors worn smooth by decades of town meetings and school dances, folding chairs stacked against walls lined with faded photos of Pine Haven's glory days. But now it was transformed into something magical. Garland draped every available surface, twinkling lights created a canopy overhead, and someone had constructed what appeared to be a stable from recycled wood and love. "Careful with that backdrop," a voice called from the stage. "We need it to last through Christmas Eve." Maya followed the voice and felt her breath catch. Noah Patton stood center stage, directing a group of teenagers who were hanging a painted scene of Bethlehem. He'd grown into his height since high school, filling out his frame with the kind of solid muscle that came from honest work, rather than expensive gyms. His dark hair was slightly mussed, and he wore a red flannel shirt that should have looked ridiculous, but somehow made him appear like he'd stepped out of a Christmas catalog. He glanced up, and their eyes met across the distance. For a moment, neither moved. Then Noah straightened, his expression cooling several degrees. "You can set those down anywhere," he told the students, never taking his eyes off Maya. "Why don't you guys take a break? Grab some hot chocolate from the kitchen." The teenagers scattered with the enthusiasm of youth escaping adult supervision, leaving Maya and Noah alone in the suddenly cavernous space. "Maya." He stepped down from the stage with easy grace, stopping a careful distance away. "You're early, am I?" She checked her phone. "I thought we agreed on 3 o'clock. We did. It's 2:30. Oh, heat crept up her neck. In Nashville, arriving early was a sin. Here, apparently, it was just awkward. "Should I come back?" "No, you're here now." Noah crossed his arms, and Maya found herself studying the way the flannel stretched across his chest. "I have to admit, I was surprised when Judge Morrison said you'd volunteered for community service." "Volunteered?" "Right." As if she'd had any choice after her assistant had posted that Instagram video of her throwing a tantrum about small-town Christmas nonsense while stuck in traffic behind a horse-drawn sleigh. The court had given her options: pay a hefty fine she couldn't afford, or complete 200 hours of community service in her hometown. Her lawyer had called it a image rehabilitation opportunity. Maya called it karma with a sense of humor. "Well, here I am." She spread her arms wide, immediately regretting the gesture when Noah's gaze flickered over her designer outfit. She was overdressed for Pine Haven, and they both knew it. Ready to spread Christmas cheer. Something that might have been amusement flickered in his dark eyes. "Are you?" Because the Maya Westwood I saw on TMZ last month didn't seem particularly fond of Christmas. That was taken out of context. "Which part? The part where you called Christmas traditions antiquated nonsense, or the part where you said small towns were cultural wastelands?" Maya's jaw tightened. "I was having a bad day. A very public bad day. Look, can we just focus on the pageant? I'm here to help, not to rehash my past mistakes." She softened her tone, trying for the charm that had once made her America's sweetheart. "What do you need me to do?" Noah studied her for a long moment, and Maya had the uncomfortable feeling he was seeing past her carefully constructed facade to the exhausted, broke, and frankly terrified woman underneath. "The pageant is in trouble," he said finally. "We've lost half our funding, most of our volunteers, and our lead Mary broke her ankle last week. The whole thing is supposed to be a celebration of Pine Haven's Christmas spirit, but honestly, it's been feeling more like a chore than a joy." Despite herself, Maya felt a flicker of professional interest. "What's the story? Traditional nativity?" "Traditional everything. Same script we've used for 30 years, same songs, same blocking. My father directed it for 25 years before he retired, and I've been trying to keep it going. But," he shrugged, and for the first time, Maya saw something vulnerable in his expression. "Maybe it's time to let it die gracefully. Or maybe it just needs some fresh blood." The words were out before Maya could stop them, and Noah's eyebrows rose. "Fresh blood? I mean..." She scrambled to recover. "Maybe it needs updating. New songs, new energy. Something to get people excited again. This is Pine Haven, Maya. We don't do updating, we do tradition. And how's that working out for you?" The question hung in the air between them, and Maya immediately wished she could take it back. She hadn't meant to sound so dismissive, so much like the person she'd been trying to escape. Noah's expression hardened. "Some things are worth preserving exactly as they are. Not everything needs to be bigger, louder, or more commercial to have value." "I wasn't suggesting..." "Weren't you?" He stepped closer, and Maya caught a whiff of his cologne, something woodsy and warm that reminded her of campfires and safety. "Because that's what you do, isn't it? Take something pure and simple and turn it into a spectacle?" The words hit harder than Maya had expected. "You don't know anything about what I do. I know what I see. I know that 5 years ago you couldn't wait to get out of Pine Haven and away from everything it represented. And now you're back, court-ordered, ready to fix us with your superior Nashville wisdom." "That's not..." Maya stopped, took a breath. Fighting with Noah wouldn't help anyone. Look, we obviously have different perspectives on this, but we're stuck with each other for the next 6 weeks, so maybe we could find some common ground? Noah stared at her for another moment, then sighed. You're right. I'm sorry. That was unprofessional. He ran a hand through his hair, leaving it more rumpled than before. I care about this pageant, probably more than I should. It's important to this town, to the families who've been coming for generations. I don't want to see it turned into something it's not, and I don't want to turn it into something it's not, Maya said, surprising herself by meaning it. I just want to help. That's all. The sincerity in her voice must have reached him, because Noah's shoulders relaxed slightly. Okay, let's start over. He extended his hand. I'm Noah Patton, music teacher and reluctant pageant director. Thank you for volunteering your time. Maya looked at his hand, strong, calloused, honest, and felt something shift in her chest. Maya Westwood, former pop star and current disaster. Thank you for letting me help. Their hands met, and Maya felt a jolt of electricity that had nothing to do with the twinkling lights overhead. Noah's grip was warm and firm, and for just a moment, she felt anchored in a way she hadn't in years. So, she said, reluctantly pulling her hand away, show me what we're working with. The next hour was a revelation. Noah walked her through the pageant setup with obvious pride, explaining the history behind each tradition, the families who contributed year after year, the children who grew up dreaming of playing Mary or Joseph. His passion was infectious, and despite herself, Maya found her cynicism beginning to crack. The Hendersons have donated costumes for 15 years, he explained, showing her a rack of lovingly maintained robes and head coverings. Mrs. Miller makes sure we have hot chocolate for the cast, and the Johnsons let us use their truck to transport the stable pieces. It's like a whole community effort, Maya said, running her fingers over a tiny angel costume that must have been sized for a toddler. That's the point. It's not about putting on a perfect show. It's about coming together to celebrate something bigger than ourselves. Maya nodded, though something in her chest tightened. She'd forgotten what that felt like, being part of something bigger, something meaningful. In Nashville, everything was about the individual, the brand, the next big break. This felt foreign and familiar all at once. What about the music? She asked. Noah's expression brightened. That's actually the best part. We use a mix of traditional carols and some pieces I've arranged for the school choir. Would you like to hear? Before Maya could answer, he was moving toward the old upright piano in the corner. His fingers found the keys with easy familiarity, and the opening notes of Silent Night filled the hall. But this wasn't the overwrought, overproduced version Maya knew from radio. This was simple, pure, beautiful in its restraint. Without thinking, Maya began to hum along, then found herself singing softly. Her voice blended with Noah's in a way that felt natural, effortless. When the song ended, they sat in silence for a moment. You still have it, Noah said quietly. Have what? That thing that made everyone in Pine Haven believe you'd conquer the world. Maya's throat tightened. Yeah, well, look how that turned out. You did conquer the world, for a while, for one song. One Christmas song that I wrote when I was 22 and homesick and stupid enough to believe in magic. She stood abruptly, pacing away from the piano. And then I spent 5 years trying to live up to that, failing spectacularly, and becoming everything I used to hate about the music industry. So why not come back to what worked? The question was so simple, so obvious, that Maya almost laughed. Because you can't go home again, Noah. Because that girl who wrote Christmas Magic tonight doesn't exist anymore. Because I've burned too many bridges and disappointed too many people, and I don't know how to be anything other than a cautionary tale. She expected him to argue, to offer platitudes about second chances and redemption. Instead, Noah just looked at her with those steady dark eyes and said, Then maybe it's time to figure out who you are now. Before Maya could respond, the hall doors burst open and a group of children rushed in, followed by several harried-looking parents. Mr. Patton! A little girl with pigtails and gap-toothed grin ran straight to Noah. Is it true? Is Maya Westwood really going to help with the pageant? Noah glanced at Maya, who managed to smile. I guess word travels fast in a small town. Emma, this is Miss Westwood, Noah said, his hand settling gently on the girl's shoulder. She's going to be helping us make this year's pageant extra special. Are you going to sing Christmas Magic tonight? Emma asked with the devastating directness of childhood. It's my favorite song in the whole world. Maya's chest tightened, but she managed to keep smiling. We'll see, sweetheart. First, we need to work on the pageant. As more children and parents filled the hall, Maya found herself swept into introductions and conversations. These people remembered her, had watched her grow up, had celebrated her success from afar. And now they were welcoming her home with a warmth she didn't deserve. Maya's going to bring some new ideas to the pageant, Noah announced once everyone had gathered. But we'll still honor all our traditions. A murmur of approval went through the crowd, and Maya felt the weight of expectations settle on her shoulders. These people were trusting her with something precious, something that mattered to them. She couldn't let them down the way she'd let down everyone else. I'm excited to work with all of you, she said, and was surprised to find she meant it. This pageant obviously means a lot to Pine Haven, and I want to make sure we create something beautiful together. As the group began to disperse into rehearsal activities, Noah appeared at her elbow. You handled that well. Did I? I feel like I just signed up for something way over my head. Welcome to directing community theater. There was a hint of a smile in his voice. The good news is, they're not expecting Broadway. They just want to be part of something special. Maya watched as Emma struggled into an angel costume 3 sizes too big, as teenage shepherds practiced their entrance with more enthusiasm than coordination, as parents helped paint backdrop clouds with more love than artistic skill. I can work with this, she said softly. I hoped you could. Noah's voice was warm, and when Maya looked at him, she saw something that might have been approval in his eyes. Same time tomorrow? Same time tomorrow. As Maya gathered her purse and headed for the door, she caught sight of her reflection in the darkened windows. For just a moment, with the twinkling lights behind her and the sound of children's laughter in the air, she looked less like a disgraced pop star and more like the girl who had once believed in Christmas magic. Maybe, just maybe, that girl was still in there somewhere. Getting to know you, Maya's second day in Pine Haven began with a minor catastrophe. She'd forgotten that her childhood bedroom still had the same flowery wallpaper and twin bed she'd outgrown at 15, that her mother still made, pancakes shaped like snowmen, and that the shower in the Westwood family home had a temperamental relationship with hot water that required a degree in plumbing to navigate. She arrived at the community center 30 minutes late, soaking wet from an unexpected cold shower, wearing jeans and a sweater that she'd borrowed from her high school wardrobe. The jeans were too short and the sweater was too tight, but they were the most appropriate clothes she had for working with children and paint. Sorry, she called as she rushed through the doors, shaking snowflakes from her hair. Minor wardrobe malfunction. Noah looked up from where he was helping a group of wise men figure out how to walk in their robes without tripping. His eyes swept over her appearance, and something in his expression shifted. You look, he paused, as if searching for the right word. Like a disaster? Like yourself. The comment hit Maya unexpectedly, warming her more than the heated building. Thanks. I think it's a compliment. Noah's smile was soft, genuine. Yesterday you looked like you were wearing a costume. Today you look like Maya. Before she could analyze what that meant, Emma appeared at her side, tugging on her borrowed sweater. Miss Maya! Mr. Noah said you're going to help us with our songs today. That's right, sweetheart. Maya knelt down to Emma's level, smiling at the girl's infectious enthusiasm. What do you think we should sing? Silent Night, and Joy to the World, and Christmas Magic Tonight. Maya's smile faltered for just a moment, but Emma didn't notice. She was already pulling Maya toward the piano where Noah waited, his expression carefully neutral. The kids have been working on a simple medley, he explained as Maya approached. Traditional carols, nothing too complicated. I thought you could listen and maybe offer some suggestions. Of course. Maya settled onto the piano bench beside him, trying to ignore the way his presence made her suddenly aware of everything. The scent of his cologne, the warmth radiating from his body, the careful way he kept space between them. What followed was 45 minutes of pure, unadulterated joy. The Pine Haven Children's Choir was made up of kids ranging from 6 to 16, with varying levels of talent and approximately zero inhibitions. They sang with the kind of enthusiasm that made up for any technical shortcomings, and their faces glowed with the simple pleasure of making music together. Maya found herself grinning as little Timothy forgot the words to Angels We Have Heard on High and made up his own version, involving aliens and Christmas cookies. She laughed when the teenage boys tried to see who could hit the lowest note in Mary Had a Baby, and ended up sounding like a colony of bullfrogs, and her heart melted completely when Emma, who couldn't have been more than 7, sang a solo verse of Silent Night with such pure sweetness that the entire room fell silent. "They're wonderful," Maya murmured to Noah during a break. "They are." His voice held a father's pride, though Maya knew he wasn't related to any of these children. Music is supposed to be joyful. Sometimes I think adults forget that. Guilty as charged. Maya thought of the endless studio sessions, the fights with producers over arrangements, the way music had become a battlefield instead of a sanctuary. When did it stop being fun for me? Maybe it doesn't have to be stopped. Maybe it just got lost for a while. Their eyes met over the piano keys, and Maya felt that strange fluttering in her chest again. Before she could examine the feeling too closely, chaos erupted as 2 of the wise men got into an argument over who had the better costume. The next hour flew by as Maya and Noah worked together to organize rehearsals, mediate costume disputes, and help nervous children find their confidence. Maya was surprised by how natural it felt to work alongside Noah. He was patient where she was energetic, calm where she was creative, and somehow they balanced each other perfectly. "You're good with them," Noah observed as they watched Emma help a younger child with his shepherd's staff. "I'm surprised by how much I'm enjoying it." Maya accepted a cup of coffee from Mrs. Miller, who had appeared with a thermos and homemade cookies. "I'd forgotten what it was like to make music just for the joy of it." "Is that why you started? For joy?" Maya took a sip of coffee, buying time to think. "I guess so. I used to sing at church, school events, anywhere that would let me. I just loved the feeling of connecting with people through music." What changed? It was a simple question with a complicated answer. Maya found herself studying Noah's face, looking for judgment or mockery, but finding only genuine curiosity. "The industry, I suppose. Once money and contracts and image became involved, it stopped being about the music and started being about the product. I became a brand instead of a person." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Turns out I'm a pretty terrible brand, but an excellent person." The words were spoken so quietly Maya almost missed them. When she looked at Noah, his cheeks were slightly pink, as if he hadn't meant to say it out loud. "You don't know me well enough to make that judgment," she said softly. "Don't I?" Noah set down his coffee cup and turned to face her fully. "I know that you came back here when you could have easily paid the fine instead. I know that you've been patient with every child who's interrupted us today, even when they asked personal questions. I know that you haven't once complained about the outdated sound system or the off-key piano or the fact that our budget for costumes is about what you probably spent on coffee in a week." Maya felt heat creep up her neck. "Maybe I'm just trying to rehab my image. Maybe. Or maybe you're remembering who you used to be before everything got complicated." Before Maya could respond, a commotion near the stage caught their attention. One of the teenage boys was gesturing wildly at the painted backdrop, which appeared to be falling apart at the seams. "Oh no," Noah muttered, rising quickly. "That thing has been held together with hope and duct tape for 3 years." Maya followed him to assess the damage. The painted canvas that depicted the hills of Bethlehem was indeed splitting down the middle, revealing the wooden frame beneath. "Can it be fixed?" Maya asked. "Maybe," Noah said doubtfully, "but we'd need someone with artistic skills, and most of our regular volunteers are busy with other preparations. I could paint a new one." The words tumbled out before Maya could think them through. Noah stared at her in surprise. "You paint?" "I used to. Art was my backup plan in case music didn't work out." Maya studied the damaged backdrop, her mind already visualizing improvements. I could create something new. Maybe something a little more dynamic? Noah's expression became cautious. What kind of dynamic? Nothing crazy, Maya assured him quickly. Just maybe some depth, some layers. Make it feel more like a real place instead of a painted wall. This isn't Nashville, Maya. We don't need special effects and elaborate sets. I'm not talking about special effects. I'm talking about art. Maya felt her passion rising. The first real creative excitement she'd experienced in months. What if instead of just painted hills, we created a scene that felt alive? Layered elements, different levels, maybe even some practical effects like string lights for stars? Noah was quiet for a long moment, and Maya held her breath. She could see him wrestling with the idea, torn between tradition and possibility. It would have to be something the kids could help with, he said finally. This pageant belongs to the whole community. Of course, we could make it a group project. Kids love getting messy with paint. A slow smile spread across Noah's face. Emma would be thrilled. She's been begging to help with more than just singing. So that's a yes? That's a cautious maybe. Noah's smile widened. Show me a sketch first. Something I can present to the pageant committee. Maya felt a rush of excitement that had nothing to do with rehabilitation or community service and everything to do with the pure joy of creation. I can have something for you by tomorrow. Deal. Noah extended his hand, and when Maya shook it, she felt that same electric jolt as the day before. This time, neither of them pulled away immediately. You know, Noah said quietly, when I heard you were coming back, I thought it would be a disaster. It still might be. Maybe. But if it is, at least it'll be an interesting disaster. Maya laughed, surprised by the genuine humor in his voice. I'll take that as a compliment. You should. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of activity. Maya found herself pulled into conversations with parents, discussing costume adjustments with Mrs. Henderson, and helping Noah organize sheet music for the various groups. It felt strange to be useful again, to have people depend on her for something other than entertainment. As the day wound down and families began collecting their children, Maya realized she was genuinely sad to see the session end. When had she started looking forward to these people's company instead of dreading it? Same time tomorrow? Noah asked as they began cleaning up. Actually, I was wondering. Maya hesitated, then plunged ahead. Would you like to grab dinner? I mean, to discuss the pageant. And the backdrop. Professional stuff. Noah paused in the middle of stacking chairs and Maya immediately regretted the impulse. Sorry, that was presumptuous. You probably have plans. Maya. Noah's voice stopped her rambling. I'd like that. Dinner, I mean, to discuss the pageant. The way he said it, with just a hint of emphasis on the last words, made Maya wonder if he was as interested in the professional aspects as he claimed. Miller's Diner? She suggested, for old time's sake. Perfect. 7 o'clock? It's a date. The words slipped out before Maya could stop them, and she felt her cheeks burn. I mean, it's a plan. A professional meeting plan. Noah's eyes crinkled with amusement. Right. A professional meeting plan. As Maya gathered her purse and headed for the door, she caught Noah watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. It wasn't the wary suspicion of yesterday, but it wasn't simple friendliness either. It was something warmer, more personal, and it made her stomach flutter with possibilities she wasn't ready to examine. Outside, snow was beginning to fall again, coating Pine Haven in a fresh layer of winter magic. Maya stood on the community center steps for a moment, breathing in the crisp air and watching the town settle into evening. Lights were coming on in windows, smoke was curling from chimneys, and somewhere in the distance she could hear the sound of children laughing. For the first time in years, Maya felt like she was exactly where she belonged. Of course, that feeling terrified her almost as much as it comforted her. Christmas Magic Begins Miller's Diner hadn't changed in the slightest since Maya's high school days. The same red vinyl booths, the same black and white checkered floor, the same handwritten menu board, proclaiming the world's best apple pie. Even the Christmas decorations looked familiar. Garland draped around the windows, a modest tree in the corner strung with lights that blinked in a pattern that would probably trigger seizures in a more litigious town. Maya slid into the booth across from Noah, feeling oddly nervous. This was just dinner between colleagues, a working meeting. So why did it feel like her first real date in years? I recommend the meatloaf, Noah said, not bothering to look at his menu. Mrs. Miller still makes it the same way she did when we were kids. Some things never change, Maya murmured, then immediately wished she'd chosen different words. She didn't want Noah thinking she was criticizing Pine Haven's resistance to change. But Noah just smiled. Some things shouldn't change. Mrs. Miller's meatloaf is perfect exactly as it is. Before Maya could respond, the woman herself appeared at their table. Betty Miller had to be pushing 70, but she moved with the energy of someone half her age, her gray hair pinned back with bobby pins and her apron dusted with flour. "Maya Westwood, as I live and breathe," she exclaimed, pulling Maya into a hug that smelled like vanilla and cinnamon. "Look at you, all grown up and famous." "Not so famous anymore, Mrs. Miller," Maya said with a rueful smile. "Nonsense. Once a star, always a star. That's what I always say." Betty turned to Noah with a maternal smile. "And look at you two, having dinner together just like old times." "We never had dinner together in old times," Maya pointed out. "Noah was in high school when I was in middle school." "Details," Betty waved a dismissive hand. "I always thought you two would end up together eventually. You both have that music in your souls, you know?" Maya felt her cheeks warm as Noah cleared his throat. "Mrs. Miller, could we get some coffee? And maybe those famous meatloaf dinners?" "Coming right up, honey." Betty patted Noah's shoulder affectionately before bustling away, leaving an awkward silence in her wake. "Sorry about that," Noah said, his own cheeks slightly pink. "She's been trying to set up half the town since her husband died. I think it's become her hobby." "It's sweet," Maya said, meaning it. "It must be nice to have people who care that much about your happiness." "Don't you? Have people who care, I mean?" Maya considered the question. Did she? Her parents cared, of course, but they'd been hurt by her years of distance and broken promises to visit. Her manager cared about her earning potential. Her few industry friends cared about her connections, but people who actually cared about her happiness? "I thought I did," she said finally. "Turns out most of my relationships were pretty superficial." Noah frowned. "That's rough. Nashville must be a lonely place. Any place can be lonely if you're the wrong version of yourself." The words hung in the air between them, more honest than Maya had intended to be. Noah's expression softened, and he reached across the table to briefly squeeze her hand. "For what it's worth, I think Pine Haven is better with you in it." Before Maya could process the warmth that spread through her at his touch, Betty reappeared with coffee and plates loaded with comfort food. The meatloaf was exactly as Maya remembered. Hearty, unpretentious, and somehow tasting like home. "So," Noah said after they'd eaten in comfortable silence for a few minutes, "tell me about this backdrop idea." Maya pulled a folded paper from her purse, smoothing it on the table between them. She'd spent the morning sketching, and the result was more elaborate than she'd originally planned. "I was thinking we could create depth using multiple layers," she explained, pointing to different elements of the drawing. A backdrop painting for the distant hills, some three-dimensional pieces for the middle ground, and practical elements like rocks and plants in the foreground. Noah studied the sketch, his expression thoughtful. "This is beautiful, Maya, but it's also a lot more complex than what we usually do." "I know, but think about how amazing it would look, and imagine how proud the kids would be to perform in front of something they helped create." "The committee might resist. They're not big on change." Maya felt a familiar frustration rise in her chest, but she pushed it down. This wasn't about her artistic vision. This was about the community. "What if we presented it as an evolution rather than a revolution?" she suggested. "We keep all the traditional elements but just make them more beautiful, more engaging. And if they say no, then we go with the duct tape plan." Noah laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "You're really serious about this, aren't you?" "I am?" Maya surprised herself with her vehemence. "These kids deserve something special, Noah. They're working so hard, bringing so much joy to this project. Why shouldn't their stage be as magical as they are?" Something in Noah's expression shifted as she spoke, and Maya realized she meant every word. Somewhere between yesterday's arrival and tonight's dinner, This had stopped being about community service and started being about community. Okay, Noah said quietly. Let's do it. Really, really, but we present it together. The committee trusts me, but they need to see that you understand what this pageant means to Pine Haven. Maya felt a rush of gratitude and excitement. Thank you. I promise I won't let you down. I know you won't. The simple confidence in his voice meant more to Maya than any review or recording contract ever had. They spent the next hour planning logistics, materials needed, timeline for construction, which children could help with which elements. Maya found herself energized in a way she hadn't felt in years, bouncing ideas off Noah and watching his face light up as the project took shape in their minds. The kids are going to lose their minds when they see this, Noah said, grinning as Maya sketched out a plan for a working waterfall feature. Emma's going to demand to paint every single star personally, Maya agreed. Timothy will probably want to add aliens to the sheep. Let him. Who says the Christmas story can't have a little creative interpretation? Noah's smile faded slightly. The pageant committee, for one. Maya set down her pen and looked at him seriously. Noah, what is it you're really afraid of? That I'll ruin the pageant, or that I'll leave again? The question surprised them both. Noah was quiet for a long moment, absently tracing patterns on the table with his finger. Both maybe, he said finally. This pageant is important to people. It's been a constant in their lives when everything else was changing, and you. He looked up at her. You have a tendency to burst into people's lives like a firework and then disappear, leaving everyone else to clean up the aftermath. The assessment stung because it was largely accurate. I'm not planning to disappear, but you will eventually. Your community service will end, and you'll go back to Nashville, or LA, or wherever your career takes you next. And Pine Haven will still be here, dealing with whatever changes you've made. Maya wanted to protest, to promise she wouldn't abandon them, but the words wouldn't come. Because Noah was right. She would leave eventually. That had always been the plan. Pine Haven was a stop, not a destination. I can't promise I'll stay forever, she said quietly. But I can promise that while I'm here, I'll give this my all. And whatever we create together, it'll be something the community can maintain and be proud of long after I'm gone. Noah studied her face for a long moment, as if searching for something he could believe in. Finally, he nodded. That's enough, for now. They were interrupted by the jingle of the diner's bell as the door opened. Maya looked up to see a familiar figure entering, tall, well-dressed, with the kind of calculated charm that set her teeth on edge. Well. Maya Westwood, Derek Morrison, Judge Morrison's nephew, Pine Haven's golden boy, and Maya's high school boyfriend, approached their table with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. He'd aged well, Maya had to admit, though there was something predatory in his smile that made her skin crawl. Derek. Maya kept her voice carefully neutral. How are you? I'm fantastic. Just got back from closing a deal in Atlanta. Derek's eyes flicked to Noah with barely concealed dismissal. Noah. Still teaching? Still teaching, Noah confirmed, his voice cool. That's nice. Some people are just meant for simple lives. Derek's attention returned to Maya. But you, Maya, you're meant for bigger things. I heard you were back in town for the pageant. Slumming it with the locals? Maya felt anger flash through her, partly at Derek's condescension, and partly at the assumption that she was somehow above Pine Haven. I'm here because I want to be here. Right. Community service, wasn't it? Derek's smile turned sharp. Don't worry, your secret's safe with me. Though I have to say, it's a shame to see someone with your talents stuck in a place like this. There's nothing wrong with this place, Maya said firmly. Of course not, it's charming in its own way. But you and I both know you belong in the spotlight, not directing children's theater in small-town America. Maya was aware of Noah sitting very still beside her, of Betty Miller pretending not to listen from behind the counter, of the suddenly charged atmosphere in the small diner. The children's theater is exactly where I want to be, she said, and was surprised to realize she meant it completely. Derek's eyebrows rose. Really? Because I might have an opportunity that would interest you. I've got connections in the industry now. Management, production companies. I could make some calls. That's generous of you, but think about it. Derek interrupted, placing a business card on the table. "You're too talented to waste away in Pine Haven. Call me when you remember who you really are." With that, he sauntered out of the diner, leaving silence in his wake. Maya stared at the business card, feeling like she'd been punched in the stomach, because part of her, a part she didn't want to acknowledge, had felt a flutter of excitement at Derek's words. The promise of opportunity, of returning to the life she'd worked so hard to build. "You should probably get back," Noah said quietly, standing and pulling out his wallet. "Early rehearsal tomorrow." Noah, wait. But he was already moving toward the counter, leaving Maya alone with Derek's business card, and the uncomfortable realization that she wasn't as sure about what she wanted as she'd thought. Outside the diner, snow was falling harder, coating the world in pristine white. Maya caught up to Noah on the sidewalk, her breath forming clouds in the cold air. "Are you angry?" she asked. Noah stopped walking and turned to face her. In the glow of the street lamps, his expression was unreadable. "No," he said finally. "I'm not angry. I'm just reminded of something I'd forgotten. Which is that some people are visitors in Pine Haven and some people are home. I forgot which one you are." The words hit Maya harder than Derek's offer had. She watched Noah walk away through the falling snow, his figure disappearing into the winter night, and felt something important slipping through her fingers. But as she stood there in the cold, surrounded by the warm lights of her hometown, Maya realized something else. For the first time in years, she wasn't sure which one she wanted to be. Deepening connection. Maya arrived at the community center the next morning carrying a large canvas, 3 bags of art supplies, and a peace offering in the form of fresh donuts from Henderson's bakery. She'd barely slept, replaying her conversation with Noah and trying to figure out how to fix whatever damage Derek's appearance had caused. The hall was empty except for Noah, who was arranging chairs with the methodical precision of someone working through complicated emotions. He looked up when she entered, his expression carefully neutral. "You're early again," he observed. "I brought donuts and paint and a sincere apology for last night." Maya set everything down near the stage and approached him cautiously. "Derek ambushed me, and I handled it badly." "You didn't do anything wrong, didn't I? I could see you pulling away after he left." Noah straightened a final chair and turned to face her fully. "Maya, you don't owe me any explanations about your career choices or your future plans. We're working together on a project, that's all." The words were polite, professional, and completely devastating. In less than 24 hours, they'd gone from whatever was beginning to bloom between them back to careful courtesy. "What if I want to owe you explanations?" Maya asked quietly. Something flickered in Noah's eyes. But before he could respond, the doors burst open, and a stream of children poured in, followed by parents carrying coffee cups and the cheerful chaos of a Saturday morning rehearsal. "Miss Maya?" Emma rushed over, her face bright with excitement. "My mom said you're going to let us help paint the backdrop." "That's right, sweetheart." Maya knelt down to Emma's level, grateful for the distraction from Noah's carefully distant expression. "Are you ready to get messy?" "I was born ready." Despite the tension with Noah, Maya found herself smiling. Emma's enthusiasm was infectious, and soon a group of children had gathered around the blank canvas, chattering with excitement about colors and stars and making everything beautiful. "All right, everyone," Noah called, his voice carrying easily across the hall. "Let's start with vocal warm-ups. Then we'll divide into groups. Older kids will run through their scenes with me. Younger ones can work on the backdrop with Miss Maya." Maya caught his eye and mouthed thank you. Noah nodded once, and though his expression remained guarded, she thought she saw a hint of warmth return to his gaze. The next 2 hours flew by in a blur of creative chaos. Maya had forgotten how liberating it could be to create without pressure, without deadlines, or commercial expectations. The children approached art with the same joyful abandon they brought to singing, and their lack of inhibition was contagious. "No, no, Timothy," Emma protested as a 6-year-old boy added what appeared to be a spaceship to the corner of their Bethlehem landscape. "That's not right." "Says who?" Maya intervened gently. "Maybe the wise men traveled by spaceship instead of camels." Emma giggled. "That's silly." "Sometimes silly is good." Art is about imagination, not rules. From across the hall, Maya heard Noah leading the older children through "O Holy Night," his rich baritone grounding their higher voices in harmony. She found herself humming along as she helped little hands guide paintbrushes, creating layers of color that built into something unexpectedly beautiful. "Miss Maya?" Emma tugged on her sleeve. "Will you sing with us?" "Mr. Noah sounds lonely over there." Out of the mouths of babes, Maya glanced toward the piano where Noah was indeed working alone with the teenagers while the younger children painted. The two groups felt divided, separate, when the whole point was supposed to be community. "You know what?" Maya set down her paintbrush and raised her voice. "Why don't we all work together? Mr. Noah, could you bring your singers over here? I think this backdrop could use some background music." Noah hesitated, and Maya held her breath. Then he smiled, the first genuine smile she'd seen from him all morning. "Great idea. Everyone, let's move the party over to the artists." What followed was magical in the truest sense. As some children painted and others sang, the two activities began to merge and influence each other. The painters worked in rhythm to the music, their brushstrokes following the melodic lines. The singers found inspiration in the emerging artwork, their voices growing stronger and more confident as the backdrop transformed. Maya found herself moving between groups, adding a harmony here, suggesting a color there, and somewhere in the beautiful chaos, she caught Noah watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "This is working," he said when she passed close to the piano. "It is," she agreed, then took a breath and added, "I threw Derek's card away." Noah's hands stilled on the keys for just a moment. "Maya, I'm not telling you because I think you need to know. I'm telling you because I want you to know. There's a difference." Before Noah could respond, Mrs. Henderson arrived with sandwiches for lunch, and the moment dissolved into the practical chaos of feeding a small army of hungry children. But as Maya helped distribute food and clean paint-covered hands, she was aware of Noah's gaze following her movements, thoughtful and perhaps a little hopeful. After lunch, as parents began arriving to collect their children, Maya found herself alone with Noah for the first time since morning. "The backdrop is looking incredible," he said, studying the canvas that was now alive with color and character. "The kids are so proud of what they've created." "They should be. Look at this." Maya pointed to a section where multiple small hands had worked together to create a field of stylized flowers. Each of them contributed something, but together it's bigger than what any one person could have made alone. Kind of like the pageant itself. Kind of like a lot of things. Their eyes met, and Maya felt that familiar flutter of connection. But before either could speak, the hall doors opened and 3 adults entered. Members of the pageant committee, Maya realized with a sinking stomach. "Noah," called Mrs. Patterson, the committee chairwoman. "We heard there have been some changes to the traditional backdrop." Maya felt Noah tense beside her. This was it. The moment when Pinehaven would reject her ideas and return to their comfortable traditions. "Actually," Noah said, stepping slightly in front of Maya, "Maya has been helping us create something really special. Would you like to see?" What followed was the longest 5 minutes of Maya's life. The 3 committee members examined the backdrop with expressions ranging from confusion to concern to cautious interest. They asked questions about durability, about cost, about whether it would be appropriate for the traditional pageant format. "It's certainly colorful," Mrs. Patterson said finally. "The children love it," Noah said firmly. "They've all contributed to it, and they're more excited about the pageant than I've seen them in years." "But will it photograph well? The newspaper always takes pictures." "It'll photograph beautifully," Maya said, finding her voice. "And more importantly, it represents everything the pageant is supposed to be about: community, creativity, celebrating the joy of Christmas together." The committee members exchanged glances, having some sort of silent conversation that Maya couldn't interpret. "We'll need to see the finished product," Mrs. Patterson said finally. "But the children's enthusiasm is important. If they're excited, the families will be excited." After the committee left, Maya sagged against the piano with relief. "That went better than expected," Noah said. "Did it?" Mrs. Patterson looked like she'd bitten into a lemon. That's just her face. Trust me, if she'd hated it, you'd have known immediately. Noah's smile was warm, genuine. Besides, she's right about one thing. If the kids are happy, the parents are happy. And right now, the kids are over the moon. Maya felt a rush of gratitude, and something deeper, warmer. Thank you for standing up for the project, for standing up for me. Maya, Noah's voice was soft, serious. I need you to know something. Whatever happens with your career, whatever opportunities come up, I'll support your decisions. But while you're here, while we're doing this together, I'm all in. Completely. The words hung in the air between them, loaded with possibility and promise. Maya felt her heart skip a beat as she realized Noah wasn't just talking about the pageant. I'm all in too, she said quietly, completely. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, the empty hall around them fading into irrelevance. Then Noah stepped closer, close enough that Maya could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. Maya, he said, her name a question and a promise all at once. Yes, she whispered, though she wasn't sure what she was agreeing to. Noah's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing across her cheek with infinite gentleness. Maya's eyes fluttered closed as he leaned closer, and she could feel his breath warm against her lips. Oh, sorry. They sprang apart as Emma burst through the doors, followed by her mother who was looking around for a forgotten backpack. Did I interrupt something? Emma asked with the devastating directness of childhood. No, sweetheart, Maya managed, her cheeks burning. Just discussing the pageant. It looked like you were going to kiss. Emma, her mother scolded, but she was smiling. Come on, let's get your things and let Mr. Noah and Miss Maya finish their discussion. As Emma was bundled into her coat and ushered out the door, she called back, I think you should kiss. You'd make pretty babies. The door closed behind them, leaving Maya and Noah alone in thunderous silence. Well, Noah said finally, his voice rough with suppressed laughter. That's one endorsement for whatever this is. Maya couldn't help but laugh, some of the tension breaking. Pretty babies? Emma's always been a romantic. Noah's smile was soft, affectionate, and directed entirely at Maya. She's also not wrong. The simple statement sent warmth flooding through Maya's chest. Noah, I know this is complicated, he said, stepping closer again. I know you have a life outside Pine Haven, and I know I'm probably the last person you expected to feel something for. But I can't pretend this isn't happening. I don't want you to pretend. Maya reached up to touch his face, marveling at the way he leaned into her touch. I just don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Care about someone the way I'm starting to care about you. Care about a place the way I'm starting to care about Pine Haven again. I don't have a good track record with things that matter. Noah's expression grew tender. Maybe you just never had the right things to matter for. Before Maya could lose her nerve, she rose on her tiptoes and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was soft, tentative, but it felt like coming home and taking flight all at once. Noah's arms came around her, pulling her closer, and Maya felt something inside her chest unlock and soar free. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Wow, Maya whispered. Yeah, Noah agreed, resting his forehead against hers. Wow. Outside, snow was beginning to fall again, and the community center was warm and bright around them. Maya looked into Noah's eyes and saw her own wonder reflected there, along with something deeper and more precious. For the first time since returning to Pine Haven, Maya wasn't thinking about where she'd go next. She was exactly where she wanted to be. Falling in love the next week passed in a blur of paint, music, and stolen moments that felt like Christmas magic come to life. Maya threw herself into the pageant preparations with an enthusiasm that surprised everyone, including herself. Each morning she arrived at the community center with new ideas, fresh energy, and a smile that grew wider every time she saw Noah. The backdrop project had evolved into something beyond Maya's wildest imagination. What had started as a simple improvement to the traditional scenery had become a community-wide effort. Local craftsmen donated time to build three-dimensional elements. The high school art class contributed painted details. Even the seniors at Pine Haven Manor got involved, sharing stories about Christmases past that inspired new elements in the design. "I still can't believe Mr. Peterson is building us an actual working well," Emma said, her face streaked with paint as she added finishing touches to a group of sheep. "With real water!" "Not real water, sweetheart," Maya laughed. "Colored lights that look like water. We don't want the angels slipping and sliding all over the stage. That would be funny, though," Timothy added, grinning as he painted what were definitely aliens among the sheep, despite several gentle suggestions toward more traditional livestock. Maya had given up trying to make Timothy's sheep terrestrial. His creativity was infectious, and somehow his quirky additions made the whole production feel more joyful, more authentic to the children creating it. "How are we doing on time?" Noah asked, appearing at Maya's elbow with 2 cups of hot chocolate topped with Mrs. Miller's famous whipped cream. "We're good. The base layers are finished, and now it's just details and fine-tuning." Maya accepted the cup gratefully, their fingers brushing in a way that sent warmth up her arm. "The kids are doing amazing work." "They are. But I was talking about us." Noah's voice was low, intimate, meant only for her. "How are we doing on time?" Maya felt her cheeks warm. Over the past week, she and Noah had fallen into a pattern of lingering after rehearsals, walking through downtown Pine Haven as shop owners, decorated their windows for Christmas, sharing coffee at Miller's Diner, and conversation that ranged from childhood memories to dreams for the future. They hadn't kissed again since that first afternoon, but the promise of it hung between them like tinsel, catching the light at unexpected moments. "I think we're doing fine on time," Maya said softly. "We have," she calculated quickly, 11 days until the pageant. Plenty of time to figure things out. I wasn't talking about the pageant either. Their eyes met, and Maya felt that familiar flutter of anticipation. Before she could respond, chaos erupted as Timothy somehow managed to knock over an entire jar of blue paint, sending it spreading across the floor in a modern art disaster. "Emergency! Emergency!" he shouted with more glee than distress. "I'll get paper towels," Noah sighed, but he was smiling. "I'll get more paint," Maya added, and as they moved in opposite directions to handle the crisis, Timothy called after them. "You guys are like a team, like Batman and Robin, but with Christmas." Maya caught Noah's eye across the spreading puddle of blue paint and felt her heart skip. Like a team. When was the last time she'd been part of a team that actually worked? Later that afternoon, after the paint crisis had been resolved and the children had been collected by their parents, Maya found herself alone with Noah in the quiet hall. They'd been working side by side for hours, but now, in the sudden silence, she was acutely aware of his presence. "We should probably head out," Noah said, but he made no move toward the door. "Probably," Maya agreed, making no move either. Instead, she found herself studying the nearly completed backdrop, amazed by what they'd all created together. The scene was more beautiful than she dared to hope. Layers of color and texture that created depth and movement, practical elements that would catch the stage lights and create real magic. And throughout it all, the unmistakable touch of children's hands and hearts. "It's beautiful," she said softly. "It is. You should be proud. We should be proud." "I couldn't have done this alone." Noah moved to stand beside her, close enough that she could feel the warmth of his body. "I've been thinking about that, about the difference between doing things alone and doing them together. And I've realized I've been alone for a long time. Even when I was surrounded by people, even when I was part of this community, I was still separate somehow, going through the motions but not really connecting." Maya turned to look at him, struck by the vulnerability in his voice. "What changed?" "You came back." His smile was soft, almost shy. "You reminded me what it feels like to be excited about something, to create something new, while still honoring what came before. You reminded me that tradition doesn't have to mean stagnation." "Noah, I know you're going to leave again," he continued, his voice steady despite the weight of the words. "I know this is temporary for you, but I want you to know that even if this is all we get, these few weeks, this project, these moments, it's enough. You've already given me more than you know." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "What if I don't want it to be temporary?" The question slipped out before she could stop it, raw and honest and terrifying. Noah's eyes widened, hope and disbelief warring in his expression. What are you saying? I'm saying that for the first time in years, I'm not thinking about my next move or my 5-year plan or how to rebuild my career. I'm thinking about right now, about tomorrow's rehearsal, about Christmas Eve, and how proud I'm going to be watching these kids perform. She took a shaky breath. I'm thinking about you. Noah stepped closer, his hands coming up to frame her face. Maya, you need to be sure about this. About us. Because I'm already falling for you, and if you change your mind. Maya silenced him with a kiss, pouring all her certainty and fear and hope into the contact. This time there was nothing tentative about it. Noah's arms came around her, pulling her against him, and Maya felt like she was finally truly awake after years of sleepwalking through her life. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. I'm falling too, Maya whispered against his lips, harder and faster than I've ever fallen for anything. Good, Noah murmured, pressing his forehead to hers. Because I was starting to worry I was in this alone. You're not alone. We're a team, remember? Like Batman and Robin, but with Christmas. Noah's laugh was warm and wonderful. I love that kid. Maya started, then stopped, the word catching in her throat. What? Noah's voice was gentle, patient. I love what we're building here. All of it. The pageant, the community, the way the children look at us like we can create magic. She took a breath. The way you look at me like I'm someone worth believing in. You are. You're so much more than you give yourself credit for. Before Maya could respond, the community center doors opened and Mrs. Henderson bustled in, carrying a box of fresh costumes. Oh, she exclaimed, stopping short when she saw them standing close together. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It's fine, Mrs. Henderson, Noah said, though he didn't step away from Maya. Just reviewing tomorrow's schedule. Of course you were, dear. Mrs. Henderson's smile was knowing and pleased. I just wanted to drop off the angel costumes. Emma will be thrilled. Hers has real feathers. As Mrs. Henderson fussed over the costumes, Maya felt Noah's hand slip into hers, their fingers interlacing naturally. Such a simple gesture, but it felt like a promise. Walk me home? Maya asked when Mrs. Henderson had left, chattering about the weather and the upcoming pageant. I'd like that. Pine Haven at dusk was a Christmas card come to life. Snow crunched under their feet as they walked slowly down Main Street, in no hurry to reach Maya's childhood home. Shop windows glowed with warm light, displaying handmade gifts and holiday treats. The old church bells were chiming the hour, and smoke curled from chimneys into the purple sky. I'd forgotten how beautiful it is here, Maya said, breathing in air that tasted like snow and pine and possibility. You've been gone a long time, 5 years, but it feels like longer. Maya squeezed Noah's hand. I was so eager to leave, to prove I could make it in the big world. I thought Pine Haven was holding me back. Maybe it was, at the time. Maybe you needed to leave to become who you are now. Maya considered this. And who am I now? Noah stopped walking and turned to face her, his expression serious and tender. You're someone who paints backdrops with 6-year-olds and doesn't mind when they add aliens to the sheep. You're someone who listens to Mrs. Miller's stories about her late husband for the 3rd time this week without showing any impatience. You're someone who sees the magic in traditions while still finding ways to make them fresh and exciting. Maya felt tears gather in her eyes. That's a generous assessment. It's an honest one. Noah's thumb traced across her knuckles. You're home, Maya. Maybe not permanently, maybe not forever, but right now, in this moment, you're exactly where you belong. The words hit Maya like a revelation. Home. Not the place she'd left behind, but the place she'd found again. Not the girl who'd been desperate to escape, but the woman who'd learned to appreciate what she'd had all along. I want to show you something, she said suddenly, leading Noah by the hand. Maya turned down a side street she hadn't walked in years. The neighborhood was quiet, houses glowing with Christmas lights, and the warm promise of families gathered around dinner tables. This is where I used to come when I was writing songs, Maya said, stopping at a small park with a gazebo in the center. I'd sit out here for hours, working through melodies and lyrics, dreaming about the future. What did you dream about? Fame, mostly. Success. Seeing my name in lights. Maya smiled ruefully. All the things I eventually got and then lost. Do you miss it? The fame? Maya considered the question seriously. A week ago, the answer would have been an immediate yes. Now. I miss the music, she said finally. I miss the feeling of connecting with people through songs. But the rest of it, the pressure, the image management, the loneliness, I don't think I realized how much of myself I was losing until I came back here. You could still have the music without the rest. There are other ways to connect with people through songs. Maya looked at him curiously. What do you mean? I mean, maybe your audience doesn't need to be millions of strangers. Maybe it could be a community that knows you, that values you for who you are rather than what you represent. The idea was so simple, so obvious, that Maya wondered why she'd never considered it before. Music for the joy of it, for the connection, for the community. Music as service rather than spectacle. Are you suggesting I become a small-town music teacher? She asked, trying to keep her tone light. I'm suggesting you follow your heart instead of your fears. Noah's smile was soft, hopeful. But if your heart led you to becoming a small-town music teacher, well, I know one who'd be very happy to show you the ropes. Maya felt something shift inside her chest, a door opening to possibilities she'd never allowed herself to consider. A life built on relationships rather than recognition. Work that mattered more than work that paid. A future that looked nothing like the plan she'd been chasing for years. What if my heart is telling me to stay? She whispered. Then you should probably listen to it. As Noah leaned down to kiss her again, Maya felt the last of her resistance crumble. She was falling in love, not just with Noah, but with the life she could build here, with the person she could become when she stopped running from her roots and started growing into them. The future had never felt more uncertain or more full of promise. The conflict Maya woke up on Saturday morning, with the kind of bone-deep contentment she hadn't felt in years. Sunlight streamed through her childhood bedroom windows, illuminating walls that had once felt like a prison, but now felt like a sanctuary. She could hear her mother humming in the kitchen downstairs, the sound mixing with the distant laughter of children building snowmen in the neighbor's yard. For the first time since returning to Pine Haven, Maya wasn't thinking about what came next. She was simply perfectly happy to be exactly where she was. That feeling lasted exactly until she checked her phone. 17 missed calls from her manager, Marcus, 12 text messages, 4 voicemails, and 1 email with the subject line, "Urgent, call me now." Maya's stomach dropped as she scrolled through the messages, each one more frantic than the last. The final text, sent at 2 a.m., was just 3 words, Maya, call, emergency. With trembling fingers, she dialed Marcus's number. Jesus Christ, Maya, where have you been? Marcus's voice was sharp with stress and what sounded like sleep deprivation. It's barely 8 a.m., Marcus, and I'm in Iowa, remember? Community service? Forget community service. We have a situation. She could hear papers rustling, the sound of multiple phones ringing in the background. TMZ leaked a story about your romantic entanglement with some small-town teacher. There are photos, Maya, of you kissing him outside some diner. Maya's blood turned to ice. What photos? Someone snapped pictures of you and this Noah guy walking around town holding hands, looking very cozy. The story dropped at midnight, and every gossip site has picked it up. Disgraced pop star's secret small-town romance is trending on Twitter. Maya sank onto her childhood bed, the morning's contentment evaporating like mist. Marcus, I can explain. There's more. His voice was grim. Derek Morrison called me an hour ago. Apparently, he's been trying to reach you about some business opportunity, and when he couldn't get through, he decided to take matters into his own hands. What does that mean? It means he's been talking to reporters, positioning himself as someone who's known you since high school, someone who understands your real potential. He's painting this whole Pine Haven thing as a temporary breakdown, a pit stop before your inevitable return to Nashville. Maya felt sick. He had no right. It gets worse. There's talk of a comeback special. Network executives who were interested in your story before this romance angle hit, are now salivating over the narrative possibilities. From scandal to small-town romance to triumphant return, it's catnip for reality TV. I don't want a reality show about my life. Maya, listen to me carefully. Your career has been on life support for months. This story, this romance angle, it's generating the kind of buzz money can't buy. Derek says he has connections who could turn this into a complete image rehabilitation, TV specials, a new recording contract, maybe even a movie deal. Maya's head was spinning. Everything Marcus was describing sounded like exactly what she'd thought she wanted, a chance to reclaim her career, to prove she wasn't just a one-hit wonder who'd flamed out spectacularly. So why did it feel like a death sentence? I need to think about this, she said weakly. There's no time to think. Derek's flying in today to meet with you. The network wants to fast-track this before the story loses momentum. Today? Marcus, it's the final weekend before the pageant. I can't just... Maya, Marcus's voice softened slightly. I know you've gotten attached to whatever's happening there, but this is your career we're talking about. Your future. You can't throw that away for some small-town fantasy. After she hung up, Maya sat in stunned silence, staring at her phone, as if it were a snake that had just bitten her. Through her window, she could see Pine Haven waking up, families heading to the bakery for fresh donuts, children dragging sleds toward the hill behind the elementary school, neighbors waving to each other across snow-covered yards. How had her private moments with Noah become public entertainment? How had Derek managed to twist her genuine feelings into a narrative about temporary insanity and inevitable departure? And how was she supposed to tell Noah that their relationship was now tabloid fodder? The pageant rehearsal that morning was a disaster. Maya arrived 20 minutes late, distracted and visibly shaken. She snapped at Timothy for adding rainbows to his alien sheep, criticized Emma's angel posture, and generally created the kind of tense atmosphere that made everyone want to escape. Maya, Noah pulled her aside after she'd reduced one of the wise men to tears over his costume adjustment. What's going on? You're not yourself today. Maya looked into his concerned face and felt her heart break a little. We need to talk. After rehearsal. Okay. Noah's voice was careful, controlled. Is everything all right? No, it's really not. The rest of rehearsal passed in a blur of forced normalcy. Maya tried to focus on the children, on the backdrop that was nearly complete, on the magic they'd all created together. But Marcus's words kept echoing in her head. Your career, your future. You can't throw that away for some small-town fantasy. Was that what this was? A fantasy? Had she been so desperate for connection that she'd convinced herself Pine Haven could be home again? After the children left, Maya and Noah found themselves alone in the community center that had become their sanctuary. The backdrop stood behind them, beautiful and nearly complete, a testament to everything they'd built together. So, Noah said, settling onto the piano bench. What did you want to talk about? Maya had rehearsed this conversation in her head a dozen times, but now, facing Noah's open, trusting expression, the words stuck in her throat. There's been a development, she began carefully. With my career situation, Noah's expression didn't change, but something in his posture tensed. What kind of development? Someone took photos of us, together, and there are stories online about us, about my time here. My manager says there might be opportunities. Opportunities, Noah repeated flatly. TV deals, a comeback special, maybe a new recording contract. Maya's voice sounded hollow even to her own ears. The kind of opportunities I've been hoping for. I see. Noah stood and walked to the backdrop, running his fingers over one of Emma's painted stars. And these opportunities require you to leave Pine Haven. They require me to return to Nashville. To the music industry. To the life I had before, the life that made you miserable, the life I worked for years to build. Noah turned to face her, and Maya was surprised by the calm in his expression. She'd expected anger, hurt, accusations. Instead, he just looked tired. Is this what you want? He asked quietly. I don't know. The admission came out as a whisper. A week ago, I would have said yes without hesitation, but now you're confused. Now I don't know who I am or what I want or how to choose between the life I thought I wanted and the life I'm starting to think I actually want. Noah was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. When he spoke, his voice was gentle but firm. Maya, I need you to understand something. I'm not going to be your experiment in small-town living. I'm not going to be the safe choice you make while you figure out whether you really want the exciting choice. The words hit Maya like a physical blow. That's not what this is, isn't it? You said yourself you don't know what you want, and I've been down this road before. What road? The road where someone sees Pine Haven as a pleasant interlude before returning to their real life, where I'm the consolation prize for when bigger dreams don't work out. Maya felt tears gather in her eyes. Noah, you're not a consolation prize. What we have is real. I want to believe that. But Maya, if you're even considering these opportunities, if there's a part of you that still wants that old life back, then you need to be honest about it. With me and with yourself. Before Maya could respond, the community center doors opened and Derek Morrison strode in, looking like he'd stepped out of a men's fashion magazine. Behind him was a woman Maya didn't recognize, carrying what appeared to be contracts and a professional camera. Maya! Derek's voice boomed across the hall. Sorry to interrupt, but we need to move fast on this opportunity. Maya felt Noah stiffen beside her. Derek, this isn't a good time. It's the perfect time. Maya, this is Jennifer Walsh from Heartland Network. She flew in from Nashville specifically to meet with you. Jennifer stepped forward with a practiced smile. Miss Westwood, it's such a pleasure. We're so excited about the possibilities for your story. The romance angle is absolutely perfect, very authentic, very relatable. America is going to fall in love with your small-town redemption arc. Romance angle? Noah's voice was dangerously quiet. Oh, didn't Maya tell you? Derek's smile was sharp. The network wants to document her journey back to stardom. And you, my friend, are a crucial part of the narrative. The grounded local who helps the lost star remember what really matters before she returns to claim her destiny. Maya watched Noah's expression close off completely. I see. And what exactly would my role be in this? Narrative. We'd need to film some of your interactions, of course, Jennifer said brightly. The pageant performance would be perfect for the climax of the special. Maya's triumphant final gift to the community before moving on to bigger things. Moving on, Noah repeated. Well, obviously Maya's talents are wasted in a place like this, Derek said with a dismissive wave. Pine Haven was perfect for her recovery period. But she belongs on a national stage. Maya felt the moment slipping away from her like water through her fingers. She could see Noah retreating, see him building walls she might never be able to scale again. We haven't agreed to anything, she said desperately. But you are considering it, Noah said. It wasn't a question. Maya's silence was answer enough. I think, Noah said quietly, you should do what's best for your career. You've worked too hard to throw it away for Pine Haven, Noah. But he was already walking toward the door, his shoulders set in a way that told Maya he was done with the conversation. Where are you going? She called after him. He paused at the door, not turning around, to finish the pageant preparations. Alone, since that seems to be how this was always going to end. The door closed behind him with a quiet click that sounded like the end of everything. Well, Derek said into the silence. That was a bit dramatic. But don't worry, Maya. We can work around the local complications. The important thing is getting your career back on track. Maya stared at the closed door, feeling like her heart had been ripped from her chest. On the other side of the room, their painted backdrop stood as a monument to everything she was about to lose. Miss Westwood? Jennifer's voice seemed to come from very far away. Should we discuss the details? Maya looked at the contracts in Jennifer's hands, at Derek's expectant expression, at the promise of everything she'd thought she wanted. Then she looked at the backdrop painted with children's hands and dreams, at the piano where Noah had played while she sang, at the space where they'd built something beautiful together. I need time to think, she said finally. The offer won't wait forever, Derek warned. Then I guess, Maya said, walking toward the door Noah had disappeared through. You'll have to wait and see what matters more to me. Outside, snow was beginning to fall again, and Maya wondered if this was how it felt when dreams came true. like everything you'd ever loved was dissolving around you, one flake at a time. Christmas Eve morning dawned clear and cold, with the kind of crystalline beauty that made Pine Haven look like it had been carved from winter magic itself. Maya woke in her childhood bed for what might be the last time, her eyes immediately going to the window where icicles hung like nature's chandelier. She'd spent 3 sleepless days since Derek's ultimatum. 3 days of avoiding Noah's carefully polite distance. 3 days of watching the children's excitement about the pageant, while her own heart felt like it was breaking piece by piece. Derek and Jennifer had given her until tonight to decide. Sign the contracts for the comeback special, or lose the opportunity forever. Once Christmas is over, the narrative moment passes, Jennifer had explained. America loves a Christmas redemption story, but it has to happen at Christmas. Maya dressed slowly, putting on the red sweater her mother had bought her for the pageant. Because you need to look festive, dear, and trying to summon the energy for what would be either the most important or the most heartbreaking night of her life. Downstairs, her parents were bustling around the kitchen with the controlled chaos of Christmas morning preparation. "Good morning, sweetheart," her mother said, pressing a cup of coffee into Maya's hands. "Big day today." "Big day," Maya agreed, though she wasn't sure if she meant the pageant or the decision that would determine the rest of her life. Her father looked up from where he was adjusting the fresh batteries in his camera. "We're so proud of you, Maya. The whole town is talking about how wonderful the pageant is going to be." "The kids did all the work," Maya said automatically. "The kids had inspiration," her mother corrected gently. "They had someone who believed in them and helped them believe in themselves." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. In all her years chasing fame and success, no review or accolade had meant as much as her mother's simple words. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course, dear. If you could go back and change your life, would you? If you could have been famous, successful, rich, would you give up what you have here?" Her mother set down her coffee cup and really looked at Maya for the first time in days. "Honey, are you asking because you're thinking about staying or because you're thinking about leaving?" "Both." "Either. I don't know." Her father joined them at the kitchen table, his expression serious. "Maya, your mother and I have watched you chase dreams for 25 years, and we've been proud of you every step of the way. But we've never seen you as happy as you've been these past few weeks. What if that's just because it's temporary? What if the only reason I'm happy here is because I know it's not permanent? What if it's not?" her mother asked gently. "What if you're happy here because this is where you belong?" Before Maya could answer, the doorbell rang. Through the front window, she could see Derek's rental car in the driveway, with Jennifer emerging from the passenger seat carrying a folder that undoubtedly contained Maya's future. "I'll get it," Maya said, steeling herself for the final confrontation. Derek stood on the front porch looking like a conquering hero, his expensive coat dusted with snow, and his smile sharp with triumph. "Maya, ready to sign your life back?" "Actually," Maya said, not inviting him in, "I've been thinking about what you said, about remembering who I really am." "Excellent. Jennifer has the contracts." "The thing is, Derek, I do remember who I really am, and she's not the person you think she is." Derek's smile faltered slightly. "Maya, don't let small-town sentiment cloud your judgment. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." "You're right, it is." Maya took a deep breath, feeling something settle into place in her chest. The opportunity to choose what matters over what pays. The opportunity to build a life instead of just a career. The opportunity to be brave enough to stay instead of being too scared to leave. "You're making a mistake," Derek said, his voice turning cold. "You'll regret this. You'll spend the rest of your life wondering what if." "Maybe," Maya said, "but I'd rather wonder what if about a career than what if about love." She closed the door gently but firmly, leaving Derek and Jennifer and their contracts on the other side. Through the window, she watched them return to their car, Derek's gestures sharp with frustration. "Well," her father said from behind her, that sounded decisive. It was. Maya turned to face her parents, feeling lighter than she had in years. "I'm staying in Pine Haven. Permanently." Her mother's face lit up with joy, but her father looked concerned. "Sweetheart, are you sure? What about your music career?" "What about it? I'll teach music. I'll write songs for local events. I'll play at church and community gatherings and anywhere else that wants me. Maya felt excitement building in her voice. I'll make music for the joy of it again, the way I did when I was young. And Noah? Her mother asked softly. Maya's heart clenched. I don't know. I hurt him badly. He might not forgive me. He will, her father said with confidence. That boy has been in love with you since you were teenagers. He's not going to let pride get in the way of happiness. I hope you're right, Maya whispered. But first, there was a pageant to perform. The Pine Haven Community Center had been transformed into something magical. The backdrop Maya and the children had painted together dominated the stage, its layers and textures creating a living, breathing Bethlehem that seemed to glow under the stage lights. Mr. Peterson's well sparkled with LED lights that looked exactly like starlight on water. The painted angels seemed to dance in the carefully arranged spotlights. Maya stood in the wings, helping nervous children with last-minute costume adjustments and trying to ignore the way her heart raced every time she glimpsed Noah across the crowded backstage area. He'd been professionally polite during the final preparations, but the warmth was gone from his eyes, replaced by a careful distance that hurt more than anger would have. Miss Maya, Emma appeared at her side, resplendent in her angel costume with its real feathers. Are you nervous? A little, Maya admitted. Are you? Nope. I'm excited. Everyone in town is here, and some people even came from other towns because they heard our pageant was going to be special this year. Maya looked out at the packed auditorium and was amazed to see Emma was right. Every seat was filled, with people standing along the walls and sitting in the aisles. The buzz of conversation was warm and anticipatory, filled with genuine excitement for the children's performance. Places, everyone, Noah called softly, and Maya felt her heart clench at the sound of his voice. Remember, this is about joy. Just go out there and share your joy. The lights dimmed, and Noah moved to the piano. In the wings, Maya could see children organizing themselves into their groups, their faces glowing with excitement and nervous energy. Ladies and gentlemen, came the voice of Mrs. Patterson over the sound system. Welcome to Pine Haven's annual Christmas pageant. This year, our children have a very special story to tell. The curtain rose, and Maya felt her breath catch. The backdrop they'd created together looked even more beautiful under the stage lights than she'd imagined. The painted hills seemed to roll into the distance. The LED stars twinkled like real celestial bodies, and the whole scene pulsed with warmth and life. Then Noah's fingers found the piano keys, and the first notes of Silent Night filled the hall. But this wasn't the traditional arrangement. This was something new, something that honored the classic while adding layers of harmony and complexity that took Maya's breath away. The children began to sing, their voices blending in perfect imperfection, and Maya felt tears stream down her face. This was why she'd fallen in love with music in the first place. This connection, this shared moment of transcendence, this proof that beauty could emerge from the simplest ingredients when they were combined with love. Emma stepped forward for her solo, her pure young voice carrying across the silent auditorium, with the kind of power that had nothing to do with volume and everything to do with sincerity. Maya watched the audience lean forward, completely captivated, and felt pride swell in her chest. The pageant unfolded like a love letter to Christmas, to community, to the magic that happened when people came together to create something beautiful. Timothy's alien sheep got the biggest laugh of the night. The wise men managed their elaborate robes without falling. The shepherds delivered their lines with enthusiasm that made up for any missed cues. And through it all, Noah played with a kind of passionate precision that reminded Maya why she'd fallen in love with him in the first place. He understood that music was meant to lift people up, to bring them together, to create moments of shared wonder. As the final notes of Joy to the World faded and the audience erupted in thunderous applause, Maya realized that this moment, this community, this feeling of belonging, was worth more than any recording contract or comeback special could ever be. The children took their bows to a standing ovation, their faces radiant with pride and joy. Parents rushed the stage with flowers and cameras, and the community center filled with the warm chaos of celebration. Maya hung back, watching the festivities from the wings, until a small hand tugged on her dress. "Miss Maya!" Emma's face was flushed with excitement. Did you see? Did you see how beautiful it was?" "I saw, sweetheart. You were all magnificent. Are you crying?" "Happy tears," Maya assured her. "Sometimes when something is so beautiful, it makes you cry with happiness." Emma considered this seriously. "Like when my mom cries at movies?" "Exactly like that. Miss Maya, are you going to stay in Pine Haven forever and ever?" Maya knelt down to Emma's level, her heart full to bursting. "I am, sweetheart. I'm going to stay forever and ever." Emma's squeal of delight was loud enough to attract attention from across the room, including Noah's. Their eyes met across the crowded space, and Maya saw surprise flicker across his face, followed by something that might have been hope. Slowly, carefully, Noah made his way through the celebrating crowd until he stood in front of Maya. "Is it true?" he asked quietly. "Are you staying?" "Derek's gone. I turned down the contracts. I'm staying in Pine Haven permanently." Maya's voice was steady despite her racing heart. "If you'll have me. If I haven't ruined everything." Noah was quiet for a long moment, and Maya held her breath. "Why?" he asked finally. "Because I love you," Maya said simply. "Because I love this place, these people, this life we could build together. Because I finally figured out the difference between what I thought I wanted and what actually makes me happy." "Maya, I know I hurt you. I know I made you feel like a consolation prize, like a backup plan. But Noah, you're not my second choice. You're my first choice. My only choice. My best choice. You're the choice that makes all the other choices make sense." Noah's expression softened, and he reached up to cup her face in his hands. "Are you sure? Really sure? Because if you change your mind, I won't change my mind. I'm home, Noah. Finally, completely home." Noah's smile was like sunrise, warm and brilliant and full of promise. "Then welcome home, Maya Westwood." When he kissed her, the community center erupted in cheers and applause, but Maya barely heard them. She was too busy kissing the man she loved in the town where she belonged, surrounded by the people who'd become her family. "Get a room," Timothy called out, and Emma shushed him loudly. "That's romantic, Timothy, like in the movies." Maya laughed against Noah's lips, feeling joy bubble up from somewhere deep in her chest. This was better than any movie, better than any song, better than any dream she'd ever dared to have. It was real. This was home. This was love. And it was just the beginning. Epilogue. 1 year later. 1 year later, Maya stood at the window of her new home, the little cottage she'd bought on Maple Street, just 3 blocks from the community center, watching the first snow of December dust the world in white. In her hands was a cup of coffee from Miller's Diner, now featuring a new seasonal drink called Maya's Christmas Magic Blend that Mrs. Miller had insisted on adding to the menu, despite Maya's embarrassed protests. The cottage was small but perfect, with a music room where Maya taught private lessons and a front porch where she and Noah spent summer evenings talking about everything and nothing. The walls were decorated with photos from the past year, children's concerts, community events, and candid shots of a life being built one beautiful moment at a time. "Ready for the chaos?" Noah asked, emerging from the kitchen with his own coffee and the calm expression of a man who'd learned to find peace in the eye of any storm. "Born ready," Maya replied, stealing a quick kiss before they bundled into their coats. Outside, Pine Haven was already bustling with Christmas Eve energy. This year's pageant had grown beyond the community center's capacity, necessitating a move to the high school auditorium. The Pine Haven Christmas pageant had become something of a regional attraction after a video of Emma's solo had gone viral, bringing visitors from neighboring towns and even some small media attention. But Maya had insisted they keep the heart of the production exactly the same: community-driven, child-centered, focused on joy rather than perfection. "Miss Maya, Mr. Noah," Emma's voice carried across the parking lot as she raced toward them, now 8 years old and gap-toothed in a completely different way. She'd been promoted from angel to narrator this year, a role she'd accepted with the gravitas of someone being handed the keys to the kingdom. "Are you ready for your big debut as narrator?" Maya asked, catching Emma in a hug. "I've been practicing in the mirror for weeks. Mom says I'm getting a little dramatic, but Mr. Noah says dramatic is good for theater." "Mr. Noah is right," Maya agreed, sharing a grin with her husband over Emma's head. Husband. Maya still felt a little thrill every time she thought the word. They'd married in June in a ceremony at the gazebo where Maya had once sat dreaming of fame and fortune. Now she dreamed of Sunday mornings and lesson plans and the children they hoped to have someday. Inside the high school auditorium, controlled chaos reigned. This year's backdrop, a collaborative effort between Maya's art students and Noah's choir members, was even more elaborate than the previous year, featuring working elements that actually moved and changed throughout the performance. Maya, Mrs. Henderson appeared with an armload of costumes. Timothy's sheep costume split at the seam again. "I think he's grown 6 inches since September." "I'll get the sewing kit," Maya said automatically. After a year of pageant productions, she'd become adept at last-minute costume repairs, set touch-ups, and the delicate art of calming pre-performance nerves. As she worked to expand Timothy's sheep costume, which still featured aliens, now joined by what appeared to be dinosaurs and at least one astronaut, Maya marveled at how different this Christmas Eve felt from last year's. Then, she'd been terrified and uncertain, torn between two different visions of her future. Now, she was exactly where she belonged, doing exactly what she was meant to do. 5 minutes to places," Noah called, and Maya felt the familiar flutter of pre-show excitement. "Miss Maya," Timothy appeared at her elbow, now 9 and still determined to revolutionize traditional Christmas imagery. "Do you think next year we could have robots? Like wise robots instead of wise men?" "We'll see, sweetheart," Maya said diplomatically. "Let's get through this year first." The auditorium lights dimmed, and Maya took her place in the wings where she could watch both the performance and the audience. The seats were packed, with families from Pine Haven mixed with visitors who'd heard about the special magic of their little pageant. In the front row, Maya could see her parents beaming with pride, next to Noah's parents who'd driven up from Florida. Derek was notably absent. He'd moved to Los Angeles the previous spring, still chasing opportunities, and still convinced Maya had made the biggest mistake of her life. Noah moved to the piano, now joined by a small orchestra of local musicians who'd volunteered their time. Maya's heart still skipped a beat when she watched him perform, his passion for music and community evident in every note. The curtain rose, and Emma stepped into the spotlight with the confidence of someone born for the stage. "Welcome," she said in her clear, strong voice, "to the story of the very first Christmas, but also to the story of every Christmas since then, and all the Christmases yet to come." It was a line Maya had written, inspired by watching Emma rehearse and realizing that the little girl understood something profound about the connection between past, present, and future. The pageant unfolded like a familiar song with new harmonies. The traditional story was all there, but woven through with themes of community, acceptance, and the magic that happened when people opened their hearts to love in all its forms. Timothy's aliens were a hit again, this time helping the shepherds navigate by starlight. The wise men's gifts included not just gold, frankincense, and myrrh, but also practical items like baby blankets knitted by the church ladies. And when Emma led the finale, a song Maya had written specifically for the Pine Haven pageant, the audience rose as one in thunderous applause. "Ladies and gentlemen," Emma announced as the other children took their bows, "this pageant was created with love by the whole Pine Haven community. But we want to give special thanks to Mr. Noah Patton and Mrs. Maya Patton, who remind us every day that the best Christmas gifts are the ones we give each other." Maya felt tears streaming down her face as the audience erupted in applause specifically directed at her and Noah. A year ago, she'd been a reluctant outsider fulfilling court-mandated community service. Now she was family, community, home. Noah appeared at her side in the wings, pulling her into his arms as the children continued their bows. "Happy anniversary," he murmured in her ear. "Anniversary? 1 year ago tonight, you chose to stay. You chose us. You chose home." Maya looked out at the stage where children glowed with pride and joy, at the audience full of people who'd become her extended family, at the backdrop painted with love and creativity and hope. "Best decision I ever made," she whispered. Later, after the last costume had been hung up and the last prop stored away, Maya and Noah walked home through Pine Haven's quiet streets. Snow was falling steadily now, muffling sound and making the world feel wrapped in cotton and magic. "So," Noah said, swinging their joined hands between them, "what's next? What dreams are we going to chase in the new year?" Maya considered the question. A year ago, her dreams had been about recovering what she'd lost. Now they were about building what came next. "I want to expand the music program at the elementary school," she said. "Maybe start a community choir for adults. Write more songs for local events." She paused, then added with a shy smile, "Maybe write some lullabies." Noah stopped walking, turning to face her with an expression of wonder and hope. "Lullabies? It's early days," Maya said quickly, "and we haven't been trying long, but—" Noah's kiss interrupted her words, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around in the falling snow. "Are you happy?" he asked when he set her down. His forehead pressed against hers. Maya looked around at Pine Haven dressed in Christmas magic, at the man she loved more than music itself, at the life they'd built together in the place where she'd always belonged. "I'm home," she said. "I'm finally, completely home." As they walked the rest of the way to their cottage, Maya hummed a new melody that had been playing in her head all evening. It sounded like snow falling, and children laughing, and the promise of love that lasted beyond any single season. It sounded like Christmas magic, the kind that didn't end when the tree came down or the decorations were packed away, the kind that lived in hearts and homes and the spaces between one moment and the next. It sounded like home. And so Maya found her way back to the place where she truly belonged, discovering that sometimes the greatest adventures happen when we stop running toward our dreams and start building them where we are. In Pine Haven, surrounded by love and community, she learned that home isn't just a place. It's the people who see the best in you and help you become who you're meant to be. Sweet dreams, and may your own Christmas be filled with the magic of coming home.